All right, guys, I'll go ahead and get started already. So, for this assignment, we're going to cover a little bit more about percents again. And then we're also going to cover the same stuff that we were covering before with numbers and operations. So, a little bit of that also. So basically, I want to cover something that I still see a few of you guys still struggling with, which is when you're converting a mixed fraction to a regular fraction. And then we'll get into the decimals, percents, and fractions. So the first thing is when you have mixed fractions like let's use kind of a larger one, like something like 4, and it's 7/8, something like that. So when you have a mixed fraction like that, the main thing that you need to do is you need to multiply 4 times 8 and then add the top one. So 4 times 8 is going to be 32. And then you add the top one, which is 7. So 32 plus 7 is going to be 39. And then the bottom number will be 8 because that's what the bottom number was over here. So the bottom number will still stay the same. And then at this point, then all you need to do is try to figure out if you can simplify by anything. In this case, it doesn't look like you can simplify by anything. No. So that's your answer right there. So 39/8. Now, the other thing is now that we're going into percents and decimals and fractions, you would have to convert this. So if I said, what is this fraction in decimal form? Then what you need to do is you need to set up your dividing so that way you can convert this into a decimal. So the main way to do that is going to be you put that 39 on the inside right here, and then that 8 is going to go on the outside. Because the cowboy rides the horse. So the cowboy is going to be inside and then the horse is going to be outside. So then you have to figure out how many times does 8 go into 39. So 8 goes into 39 4 times. So 4 times 8 is going to be 32. So then we subtract that. So 39 minus 32 is going to be 7. And then 8 doesn't go into 7, so we would have to add a 0 to that right there. And when we add that 0, then we put a decimal up here. So then you have to figure out how many times does 8 go into 70. So that's going to be 8 times, because I know that 8 times 8 is going to be 64. And then we subtract that again. So 70 minus 64 is going to be 6. And then 8 does not go into 6, so we would add another 0 there. In this case, we don't put another decimal because we already did one. So 8 goes into 60 how many times? And that'll be 7. So 7 times 8 is going to be 56. Subtract that. So then we're left with 4. And then we would add another 0. And then 8 goes into 40 5 times. So 5 times 8 is going to be 40. And then that will zero out that problem right there. So that's it. We're done with that. So now we know that it is 4.875. Now, if I said, what is this in percent form? So then all you would do is you would grab that decimal. So let's put that number over here. So 4.875. And then all you would do is move it to the right 2 times. So once, twice, and then that's 487. 0.5%. And that does make sense because 400% means 4 whole items. So if you look over here, there's 4.875 of something. So like if we were talking about something like candy bars, so we wanted to know how many candy bars this is, 4.875. I already know for sure there's going to be 4 whole candy bars. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after that, there's not a 5th one. There's going to be 0.875 of a candy bar. So out of that whole candy bar, you would break off a piece like that size, and you would have this section right here. So almost all of it, because it's 0.875, but that's it. So 487.5%. So going back to the original problem, so let's say I gave you 4 7/8 of for a fraction, for a mixed fraction, and then you have to convert that into a regular fraction. So you would convert that into 39/8. So that's how you do that. And then if the question was, how do you show 39/8 into decimal form? So then you would actually have to do the fraction and you divide it all out. And then eventually you'll come up with the 4.875. And so that would be the decimal form of this fraction. And then if I were to say, well, what about the percent? So then that's when you would do that, where you get that 4.875, and then you just have to move it over 2 times, and it would be this right here. So this is the percent, this is the decimal, and then this is the fraction of this. So pretty simple. I know that there's a little bit of math involved, but you know that's the way all of these questions are going to be like. Now, going to the next part of it, let me take a look at assignment 24 real quick to see what the next part is. So let me just look at assignment 24. Okay, so the next part would be doing something like this, where if I were to tell you, let's say 12 over 14. So 12 over 14. And I give you this fraction, and then I say, how is that in decimal form? So what does that look like in decimal? Or, you know what, let me type it out. So if I say, what does that look like in decimal form? Then you already know that you would just have to divide it out. So we divide that. 12 would go in here. 14 would go out here. Because again, 12 goes on the inside because the cowboy rides a horse. So a cowboy would sleep inside, horse stays outside. So you would do that. And then you would try to figure out, okay, well, how many times does 14 go into 12? It doesn't go in any time, so you would add a 0 right there. Put a decimal because of the 0. And then you would have to figure out how many times does 14 go into 120. So there's different ways of doing this. One way would just be to just multiply some stuff. So let's start off with kind of a high number. So let's start off with something like 25. So 25 times 14. And then, so 4 times 5 is 20. And then 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. And then on the second line, remember there's another 0 down here. And then 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. And then you would just add that up. Right? So then basically you just want to figure out how many times does 14 go into 120 until you get it. So that is obviously way too high of a number. So then you would just try to have to figure it out. So 14, let's do it times 8. So 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 3. So 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 112. And then we add one more to that, and it would be too much. So another 14 added onto this, and it would be too much. So I already know 8 times, that would be 112. You subtract that, and it would be equal to 8. And then 14 doesn't go into 8, so you would add a 0, and then you would have to do the same thing again. Try to figure out how many times does 14 go into 80. So that would be something like 5. So 5 times 14. Let's do that. So 14 times 5. This is going to be a 20. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 70. So that's perfect. So 5 times 14 is 70. So you subtract, and then you go on and on and on until you eventually finish this. I didn't make it too difficult on assignments number 24 and 25. I made it to where I only went up to 3 numbers. So you don't have to go on for like 4, 5, 6 numbers. I only ended it at 3. So that's how you would do the decimal. So then let's say that we finished here. So that was our decimal. So let's say, for example, 0.85. And then I asked, okay, well, what is this decimal in percent form? So all you would have to do is grab this decimal, move it to the right 2 times, and then end it right there. So it would be 85%. So then that would be 85%. And that is something that you guys will have. So I'm going to give you something like 0.85, and I'm going to say convert it to a percent. And then that's all you have to do. Then let's do the opposite of that. So now let's say that you're converting a percent to a decimal. So now these are sort of easy, but the only thing that you have to remember is, let's say if I have something like 7%, for example, and then I say, what is this in decimal? It's not going to be 0.7. It's not going to be that. That would be wrong. So 0.7 or 7%, you would have to start off here and move over twice, once, twice to the left. And then in that empty space, you would put a 0. So that would be 0.07% or 0.07. So 7% would end up being 0.07, like that. So that's one of the trickier ones. Everything else, all the 2-digit numbers, they're super easy. So if I said 77%, and what is that in decimal form? All that is just 0.77. So these are easy. But then the other ones that you have to watch out for is if I said something like 237%. And then I asked, well, what is that in decimal form? So this one, you would start off the decimal here, you move it over twice, and the decimal would be right there, just like all the other ones. So it's going to be 2.37. And that would be the decimal form of 237%. So just as long as you guys remember that. So if you have something like 15% and you're doing percent to decimal, so percent to decimal, then the decimal would move to the left 2 times. So 0.15. But then if you're doing decimal to percent, it's going to go the opposite way. Decimal to percent. Then you're going to have, let's say 1.12. Then you would move it, instead of going to the left 2 times, you're going to the right. So it's once, twice. And that will be 112%. And there you go. So now let me look at assignment 24 again. Okay, so the other part that I put in there is I put some word problems in there. So if you add some word problems in there, so let's say that I gave you something like, let me open this up. So let's say if you have, let me see how many people. So there's 25 participants in this group right now. So on this Zoom meeting. So out of all 25 of us, if you have 12 people out of 25 students that like, let's say something like Sprite. How many students in percent like Sprite? So if I give you something like that, then there's a little bit more math. So 12 students out of 25 like Sprite. How many students in percent like Sprite? So the key word is percent down here, and 12 out of 15. So 12 out of 25. And then I wanted to know percent. So then the first step that you got to do is you have to do this, right? Then you would put that 12 on the inside right here, and then this 25 would be out here. So the first step that you would need to do is 25 doesn't go into 12, so you would add a 0, put a decimal there, and then 25 goes into 124 times because that'll be 100. Subtract that, you'd be left with 20. And then we add another 0, and then 25 goes into 208 times. And that's it. and we cancel that out. So 0.48 is a decimal of 12 out of 25. So now, but we want to know percent, not decimal. So the next step, all you have to do is you grab that decimal, move it over to the right 2 times, and there you go. So the answer to that question would be 48%. So anytime that you see something like that, 12 out of 25, things like that, they're talking about a fraction. That's the key word. Whenever it says a number out of another number, I know that we've done this in class several times. This is what that means. 12 out of 25 in total. Because remember, this is part, and this is the whole. So 25 students in total down here, and then 12 students like Sprite. So 12 out of 25. So 48%. Okay, so I think that is pretty much it. Let me see. So let me cover one more example, and then that's it. So let's do kind of an easier one. So if I said 1 out of 4, and what is that in percent? See, this one, something like that is pretty easy. I already know it's 25%. The main reason is because whenever there's a 4 on the bottom, that's one of our shortcuts that we've covered. So when there's a 4 on the bottom, you can think about quarters, because there's 4 quarters in a dollar. And if you have 1 quarter, you have 25 cents or 25%. And then the decimal of this, all you would do is draw a decimal here, move it over to the left 2 times. And that would be 0.25. And that would be your decimal to that. So 25% or 0.25 or 1/4, all of this is the same exact thing. Now, if you had a drawing, like a diagram, so let's say that you had a candy bar, for example. So this is just a regular chocolate candy bar, and it's broken up into 4 pieces. And then I say, I'm going to give you 1/4. So basically, I'm going to give you one of these 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 pieces in total. That's the whole. Right? And then part is what you're getting. So 1 out of the 4. So I'm giving you 1 piece. This is 1/4. So if you shaded that in, it would just be this one shaded in right here. And that would be 1/4. Now, if I said something like 2 out of 4, then that's 2 out of 4 is actually half. So that means that I'm giving you 2 of the 4 pieces, and that is actually half. And then if I said 3/4, so if this was a 3, then you shade in that. And then the next one would be 4 out of 4. So 4/4, or that's the same thing as saying 1. That's giving you everything, the whole candy bar. So you have 1. So the whole thing, that is 100%. because technically, if you say 1.0, 0, and then you move it over 2 times to the right, that is 100%. So these are the things that you guys just have to keep in mind with these assignments. So like assignment 24 and assignment 25 are going to be over these. I'm going to upload both the paper version and the quizzes version as soon as we finish with this meeting. I already have them created, so all I got to do is just upload them. As soon as I end this meeting, I'm going to upload the paper version and the quizzes version. Now, you only have to do one or the other. It is the same exact thing. So the paper version, and then there's going to be quizzes version. You only have to do one or the other. You don't have to do both. So if you do this one, then that's it. You're done. You're good. If you do this one over here, then that's it. You don't have to worry about this one. The reason I do both versions is because for some reason, some students don't like quizzes, or it doesn't work for you, or you have internet access, but you might not be able to download the app for some reason, whatever the case is, but you only have to do one or the other. So if you're doing quizzes, then that's it. That's all you have to do. If you're doing the paper version, that's it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do both. So the thing that I'm looking at first is the quizzes version. So if I don't see that, then I look at to see if you did a paper version. If I don't see that, then I check my email and see if you like wrote it down on a piece of paper and emailed it to me or something like that. And if I don't see it there, then I know that you didn't do it. So once I check all 3 of these and you didn't do it, then you didn't turn in anything. For the people that keep asking about the quizzes, if I can re-upload it or open it back up, I can't do that. But if it's a day or 2 late and, you know, if you ask me, then I might allow you to do the paper version. But you have to ask me first. And if you turn in the paper version late, then I'll only deduct some points. So maybe I'll deduct, I'll take off 10 points or 20 points or something like that. So if you would have gotten, let's say you got a 90 on it, but you turned it in a couple days late or something like that, then that 90 is going to turn into a 70. Or same thing, if you got a 70, then that's going to turn into a 50. So those are the things that you guys just have to keep in mind when you're turning in stuff late, is you have to ask me first. And then if I allow it, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to deduct points for turning it in late. So all of these 3 assignments, 24, 25, and 26, they're only going to be like 10 questions each. So it's something that is super easy. You can get these done in like 10 minutes. It doesn't take long, and I'm giving you guys 1, 2, 3, 4 days. So there's no reason that you can't finish a 10-minute assignment within 3 days. So 10 minutes and then another 10 and another 10. So in total, you can finish all 3 in 30 minutes. I'm sure that there's 30 minutes anywhere within the next 3-4 days. So I'm going to upload 24 and 25 right now. 26, we're going to have a Zoom meeting tomorrow. So for 26, the Zoom meeting is on Thursday at 4 p.m. So Thursday at 4 p.m., I'm going to talk about assignment 26, and then that's it. I'm going to actually have all of these due by Friday at, I'll check the time because grades are going to be due on Friday for these. So by Friday, you need to turn in all 3 of these. If I don't have it by Friday, then it's not going to count. So try to get it in by Friday. If you can, do both of these today. So that's it, guys. So I will upload assignments 24 and 25 right now in a little bit, and just make sure that you're completing these assignments and turning them in. All right. Okay. Bye, guys.